Good afternoon. It's May 16th, Monday. You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. We have a really active weather pattern that's going to be developing and affecting the Midwest this week. Just about every single day, a different system will be responsible. A different system will be moving by, which will be responsible for bringing active weather, precipitation with thunderstorms, some with hail, some with very large hail in the mid-Mississippi Valley, moving across the Midwest. There's more going on towards the end of the week as well into next weekend for other parts of the country, including the Midwest. A very big change in theory. We're going to talk about it in just one moment. Hey folks, I have to speak about the Anchor app because I just find it to be so amazing. There has never been an easier app that I've ever come across to make podcasts where you're able to split things up into segments. And if you should make a mistake and you need to edit something, you just can so quickly change it. You have to see what I mean by having the app. If you have the app, you'll see it's completely different than anything else that I've ever experienced. That's in regards to the app. They also have a program where they will distribute, where they will give you directions and guidance on how to distribute your podcasts to a whole bunch of different platforms, which are really popular. That will make your podcast really popular. There's so many other features that this podcast has that I've never seen in other podcasts. For example, you could add background music, but it's not like you have to listen to the entire podcast again with the background music in order to add the background music. They do it for you. You just have to put in whichever background music you want. You choose it, and they do it for you. They have a great selection of pictures, artwork, all of the things that you would want in a podcast. That's what they have, and this is just the beginning. I can tell you as time goes on, I'm going to be able to tell you so many more things about this podcast. I do have a lot of experience working with other podcasts, and I can tell you that when it comes to making a podcast, there's nothing greater than this. This is really top notch. So I highly encourage people to start off with this podcast, Anchor, the Anchor app. Thank you. Bye. Storm system number 1 is a low pressure system that will be developing over in the Central Plains over the course of the next 24 hours. This low pressure system is a weaker type of a system. It will be responsible for bringing possible showers and thunderstorms into the Missouri area and other locations as well. These storms are falling into dry air. Some of the precipitation will be evaporating before it touches the ground. The precipitation will be affecting other parts of the Midwest as well. However, the impacts that this is going to be having in the Chicago area, it's going to be robbing us from our moisture, making the air even drier. In fact, the more thunderstorm development there is down south, the drier the air is going to be over here. Also, we're going to be seeing winds coming in right off of the cold lake that's going to push our temperatures by the lake in the upper 50s. But realize the sun is a true powerhouse this time of the year, so making it just a few miles inland is going to make an enormous difference, and temperatures are going to hit very close to 70, maybe even 70 degrees as you come further inland. You know, today, because of the strong sun, temperatures are being reported, says the National Weather Service, of being in the mid and even upper 70s all across the Chicago area. And we're in an air mass right behind a cold front, so that is something which is quite remarkable. The next low pressure system, this low pressure system in the plains takes a storm track, most likely does the classic thing it's been doing last week and just moves up north. The next one is more significant. That causes thunderstorms to develop again in the mid-Mississippi Valley. There's a little bit of different approaches between the European computer model and the other model in regards to whether the heaviest precipitation is going to be just north of the St. Louis area or not. That's going to be the story not only for tomorrow night, but also not only just for Wednesday, but also on Thursday as well. But either way, so this low pressure system brings a stronger chance for thunderstorms. The highest concern is actually supercells, so possible tornadoes along with large hail. Damaging wind gusts is also a concern, but the main thing is going to be the hail. Also, there's concern with this of training. Training is when thunderstorms move over the same area over and over again. There's an enormous amount of moisture associated with the system. In fact, it's within the 90th percentile for this time of the year. These storms are affecting areas south of the Chicago region, that's what it looks like right now, at least for Tuesday night. Wednesday could very well be some of those showers may actually move up north into the Chicago area. The main severe threat remains south. Realize that right now there's actually a little bit of a ridge which is responsible for bringing all this warmth into the Midwest right now. Nothing like what we had last week. That ridge is going to be flattening tomorrow. That's going to allow for these two low pressure systems, which is being called impulses, shortwave impulses that will be moving across the Midwest. And before this happens, which this is the first part that was skipped perhaps, we have a high pressure system right now over western Missouri that will be moving southeast for the night. Tonight, that's also what's going to make room for these two low pressure impulses. Again, number one, the first one is not as significant as the second one. And even if it is as significant, it won't be affecting the surface as significant as the second one because the dry air will be causing some of the precipitation to evaporate before touching the ground. Okay, now we go on to the next thing. You know, a lot of this seems to revolve around St. Louis, but Chicago's the impact, we have mentioned the impact this is going to be having on Chicago, which is winds off the lake. Some clouds come in from these systems, generally not much moisture around here. Okay, now we go into Thursday. Now, Thursday we have a front. This is the classic front that sets itself up throughout the summer. It's an east to west oriented front, and it's going to be north of the St. Louis area. It's really Thursday where we have a difference in computer models where the strongest storms or where the highest risk for severe weather is. Let's just go according to the European computer model because that's just the way it is. And the National Weather Service is taking that route anyways, which puts the strongest chances for severe weather in east central Missouri. Also northeast Illinois and west central Illinois, parts of southeast Iowa, according to the GFS model. Supercell storms, again, will be the highest threat, with very, very large hail on Thursday. Very, very large hail. Hailstorms may affect the region, may affect the St. Louis area, places over there for Thursday. This front, the frontal boundary, it goes seriously north of St. Louis. Not only does it go north of St. Louis, in fact, it's actually, Chicago is going to be affected by the heat and humidity for Thursday. That's what it seems like. The front's really going far north. Chicago temperatures probably going into the low 80s with south to southwest winds. And then Thursday night is when these storms might even affect the Chicago area. A strong thunderstorm is possible late Thursday night in the Chicago area. So we have both the St. Louis area and the Chicago area being affected by these storms along the front. You know, much of the Midwest, this is again an east to west oriented front. So much of the Midwest is going to be affected by this situation. The front then starts to move back down south. And we still, however, the front is close enough to the Chicago area where we will see again a chance for thunderstorms on Friday. That's not the big story Friday, though. Here's the big story. When you hear the story from anyone, and when you read about this story, you have a chance of hearing about a much more dramatic story than what might actually happen. And I'm going to explain this right now. We have very cold air coming into the Northwest Pacific. Precipitation is going to be falling as snow once again for the mountains, going all the way down to even levels 4,000 feet. You know, you look at the Black Hills just west of Rapid City, South Dakota, and you can't believe it. You look at this system is expected right now to be bringing probably around 3 to 6 inches of snow for that Black Hills right next to Rapid City. We'll see what actually ends up happening. The temperatures aloft are cold. Temperatures aloft in the Pacific Northwest, reports the National Weather Service, 5,000 feet above the surface is 0 degrees Celsius, which is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. What we said last week in the St. Louis area, that translates to 14 degrees higher on the surface, which would be 46 degrees. But by the time it gets here, the National Weather Service is telling us that it's close to 10 degrees below 0 Celsius. So if we go ahead and we take the regular formula, that every 5 degrees Celsius is 9 degrees Fahrenheit, so then 10 degrees Celsius is 18 degrees Fahrenheit, under 32 degrees, that's 14 degrees Fahrenheit. So our 14-degree formula no longer works out. It's just not possible. So we're going to drop it. We're just going to drop that 14-degree formula. And what you have to realize is that we have very cold air aloft that's moving into our area. And on the weather maps, it looks really impressive. It almost looks like winter is making a return. And that blackberry winter is coming back after all. The only thing is the blackberry winter is a little bit too late because the sun is just such a powerhouse this time of the year. Temperatures are most likely still going to make it into the 70s in the St. Louis area even after this front moves through. Mid 60s to mid 70s across the Missouri area. When you get into Shabbos and Sunday, there is a chance for thunderstorms again in the St. Louis area. Shabbos, there's another. After the front moves through, there's an impulse behind the front, a post-frontal precipitation system that will be moving through. I know it's affecting the St. Louis area, and actually it's also going to be affecting the Chicago area. Chicago, we're going to have winds off the lake again, Shabbos afternoon, and it's going to be cold. For Chicago, it's going to be cold. We're not going to see a strong sun, which is going to cause any rebound. And Sunday as well, with high temperatures in the 50s and low temperatures in the 40s. It will be interesting to see, excuse me, if the Des Moines National Weather Service that was forecasting, they mentioned a couple weeks ago that last week's ridge was bringing an end to the cold season, which is an interesting thing to say, especially considering how cold we've been in April. But their definition of cold is that we're no longer going to see high temperatures of under 60 degrees. That was their definition. We know in Chicago that can't be the case because of the lake. But you look at Des Moines, Iowa, they're not impacted by the lake at all. High temperatures on Shabbos, mid to upper 50s, says AccuWeather, a high of 57 degrees. To be perfectly honest, the National Weather Service said it's not that we're going to see no more high temperatures under 60, but it's going to be very few. You know, does this classify as the blackberry winter? It could be technically, but, you know, they lost out. The blackberry winter lost out because it's coming in at a time of year when the sun is just a true powerhouse. On the other hand, people must realize Chicago has seen snowflakes as late as June 6th. That has happened before. But that's not happening here. Just realize that's not happening here. This air mass is warming up as it moves east. Just like last week's air mass was warming up as it moved east. And what did it come down to? Temperature's almost 80 degrees today. You see, the difference is last week, sure, it warmed up as it moved east, but it was stuck in a traffic jam. It had plenty of time to warm up. So perhaps the thinking is that was the final blast of cold air, and it got stuck in traffic. The thing warmed up, so there's no more. Here in the Chicago area, we're going to be suffering through occasional 50s now and then. In fact, I think we'll be suffering through some 40s even until you hit mid-June, when those lake water temperatures really start to go up. Today we have severe weather, which has been going on all afternoon in the Northeast and the Pennsylvania area. We saw really warm temperatures over the weekend in the Northeast. Brutal heat right now in Texas. That's something that should be mentioned. Extreme heat continues for the next several days. Temperatures will not be quite as hot, but still extremely hot over the next several days. However, I want to point out that these temperatures, although they are triple digit, the dew points, it's behind the dry line. So, okay, you know, but there's wind. The wind is actually making temperatures feel hotter than it really is because, as we pointed out, when temperatures are higher than what your surface skin temperature is, which is 95 degrees. We've learned during COVID that it's 96 degrees, actually, because all the thermometers always say 96 degrees. So they say 95, but maybe it's perhaps 96. And if it's very humid and you're sweating a lot, then it actually becomes closer to 97 degrees. Either way, you have places in Texas which are they have those temperatures up in the upper 90s with the dry heat, even hotter than that with wind. So it actually feels hotter than what it really is. So the heat index is 10 degrees lower than the temperature, but realize you throw that out the window. Basically, it feels like what the temperature is, maybe a couple degrees hotter. The wildfires have gone nuts in New Mexico, and it's just staying like that. Conditions a little bit cooler, but it is hot. It's hot across the desert Southwest as well. The dew points are unusually low, even over in East Texas, dew points in the 50s, maybe lower 60s. It's not until Arkansas where you start to get dew point. Well, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, dew points are well into the 60s. We even have a couple of dew points of near 70 degrees, which will be developing by Thursday. Thursday and right before that front moves through on Friday, that's when we're really going to see the higher humidity. Hot and humid air moves to the East Coast right before that front moves through late in the week. Temperatures will hit 90 degrees for the first time this year for Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you, everyone. I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. And perhaps if there's time later today, this podcast will be redone. But if not, I hope everyone enjoyed either way. Have a wonderful day.